This portion of the news brought to you by McDonald's. McDonald's, I'm loving it.
Welcome back. More details coming out of that Public Hospital Authority forensic report.
And a lot of the concern focused on inventory of prescription drugs.
Now, the report also pointed to nurses and doctors not properly distributing drugs to patients.
Tonight, Jane Noel Ferguson discusses the issue with a top physician and the president of the Nurses Union.
The dispensation of prescription drugs at healthcare facilities in the country called into question by a forensic audit report conducted on the Public Hospitals Authority. According to the report, based on information they've gathered, nurses do not record dispensed drugs, disobey the directives of physicians, and provide different doses to patients. It was also revealed that expensive medication and emergency medical equipment was allowed to reach their expiration date on the shelves instead of being distributed. The report furthered that a person interviewed went as far as describing the ward as a black hole for prescription drugs, which increased the risk to patients and wasted PHA's assets. Now, President of the Nurses Union, Janet Kofani, took grave exception to these claims and said that to even suggest that nurses would participate in this is absurd.
The directives always come directly from the physician. The nurse does not decide that if the doctor wants it IV, I'm going to give it PO or I am going to give it IM. That just does not happen. It is always under the direction of the physician. She would have spoken to that physician who would have said, go ahead and give the patient what the pharmacist have, the route that the pharmacist have in it. She never does anything independently like that. When you take the whole content of the issue, it doesn't have a doggone thing to do with nursing. It has to do with some misplaced ordering of pharmaceutical drugs.
Now, heart surgeon Dr. Dwayne Sands also defended medical staff.
When you see nurses in particular who are trying to be creative in an approach to provide care, that they are facing real challenges with drugs, with equipment, with staff, with an environment which is not consistent with anything that professionals ought to be working with.
The report stated that the chief pharmacist and head of the inventory at PMH refused to meet with auditors. The report also cited $10 million unaccounted for medication. Former Health Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis claims that this is a clerical error. Now, that PHA audit also recommended that PHA do a better job of record keeping. It also said that more focus should be placed on information technology. Janae Noel Ferguson, ZNS Network News.
The gender equality referendum is getting some crucial support tonight as the leader of the Anglican Church, Right Reverend Bishop Leish Boyd, throws his support behind the effort.
And as Jared Hicks tells us, the bishop believes a major obstacle is the attitude of some Bahamians toward foreign nationals.
That I support all 4 amendments and intend to vote in favor of them.
During his charge to the nation at the 112th session of the Synod, Bishop Leish Boyd encouraged Bahamians to support the gender equality referendum, despite the fact that the date of the poll has been changed and there has been some obstacles to bipartisanship. The Anglican bishop also noted that while he was not telling anybody how to vote, he does believe that Bahamians are touchy when it comes to citizenship.
Now, Bahamians are sensitive when it comes to Bahamian citizenship, and we should be. However, I am of the opinion that a lot of us simply need to grow up and come into the real world. We cannot have different strokes for different folks. We cannot have different rules for men and women.
Bishop Boyd described how thousands of people living in the Bahamas are disenfranchised as a result of the current citizenship laws, and went on to accuse some Bahamians of having a phobia against immigrants and the fear of foreign nationals overrunning the country.
A lot of the phobia against people obtaining Bahamian citizenship that has surfaced in the current referendum discussion has to do, I believe, with a basic prejudice against Haitians and Jamaicans in particular, and against foreigners in general.
Despite those strong words, the Anglican Church leader for the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos appreciates the fear of the country being taken over by foreigners.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that Bahamian citizenship should be given away at whim to those who are not eligible who receive it by false pretenses. I am a proponent of Bahamian sovereignty and would not want my Bahamas to be overrun by anyone from the outside.
While there may be differing opinions on the issue of gender equality, in the words of Bishop Boyd, what is right, and what is fair is fair. Jared Higgs, ZNS Network News.
Thanks, Jared. Well, a prominent resident was named in that customs sting operation where 3 luxury cars were confiscated by authorities last month.
However, as Cleopatra Murphy tells us tonight, it is the handling of that matter that is causing a concern for some who say it highlights the disparities in how Bahamians are treated differently for the same violations based on color and class.
He voiced strong opposition to the introduction of value-added tax, expected to come on stream in January. Now ZNS News understands Bahamas Chamber of Commerce and Employers Confederation Chairman Robert Myers may have attempted to avoid another tax, customs duties. The co-chair of the Coalition for Responsible Taxation is the owner of one of 3 luxury vehicles confiscated by customs in mid-September. 2 of those were listed undervalued on declarations forms. We obtained documentation containing the signature of a female relative, Lisa Myers Feynman, showing that they attempted to defraud customs of $22,000 after making a false declaration on a gray 2013 Porsche Cayenne hybrid SUV that they claim was valued at $49,000. The true value of the vehicle purchased at Porsche of Colorado Springs was a larger $71,028.73. We also understand that in the trunk of the vehicle was some $3,000 to $4,000 worth of clothes and grocery that were undeclared. The coalition's website, wakeupbahamas.com, states that government should crack down on those who don't pay their taxes as an alternative to VAT. Although Customs has remained silent on the matter, a source tells ZNS News that Customs officers are upset that Myers, whose case was expedited, has already gotten the vehicle back. This they consider highly unusual. Some say he was given a slap on the wrist. Our source says under normal circumstances, Myers, who had 4 violations, would have automatically forfeited the vehicle, which would have been put up for auction and faced fines up to $40,000 due to the scale of the attempt to defraud and other charges. The source claims there are different rules at the department for the white upper class and the average Bahamian, maintaining that Myers' status allowed him to go directly to the Comptroller of Customs. They also maintain that while Customs Comptroller Charles Turner is a good person, he is not willing to ruffle any feathers when a high-ranking person calls in a favor. Myers faced potential charges of withholding an invoice, false declaration, attempt to defraud the revenue of the Customs Authority, and uncustoms goods. However, our source says Myers paid the outstanding duties on the vehicle and a fine believed to be $10,000. They say he should have been made an example of because due to his wealth, Myers would have had no problem paying the tax. In addition, after his criticism of the department and government for its failure to properly collect taxes, he should have been willing to pay his share. When contacted, Myers says he would not comment on the issue, but said the matter had been resolved. ZNS News also spoke with Comptroller of Customs Charles Turner, who offered little on the matter. Addressing the claims against him, Turner said they were ludicrous and he treats everyone equally. With regards to that mid-September seizure, Turner says details will be gazetted and made public, but could not give a time frame. He added that the matter is still under active investigation. Cleopatra Murphy, ZNS Network News.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs will welcome for the first time the Bahamas' 12 heads of missions and more than 50 diplomats who are accredited to the Bahamas as it hosts its annual Diplomat Week here in New Providence beginning this Sunday through the 25th. During the course of the week, 3 ambassadors designate from Germany, South Korea, and France will present their letters of credence to the Governor General. The Foreign Affairs Minister said the aim of the Diplomat Week is multifold but is of very equal importance.
The whole point is building relationships, because the theme for me, or the reason that we exist in foreign affairs, is to provide a seamless experience for Bahamians as they travel across the world, whether for education or for tourism or for business. We want, when that Bahamian passport shows up at the border, that passport means something, And the only way to do that is by building relationships.
The first order of business on October 20th will be a focus on student outreach. Officials will travel to a number of family islands to explain the roles of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in social and economic development. Other highlights of the week include a meeting with the 12 heads of missions where they will review the work of the ministry and plan strategies to improve it. There will also be a Bahamas-European Union dialogue on crime and security, climate change, and economic development on Thursday. A new Foreign Affairs Act was on the agenda at the cabinet meeting on Wednesday. Ministers dealt specifically with the approval of the Foreign Services Order, which Foreign Affairs Minister Fred Mitchell hopes will be enforced by December 15th. He explained that the new act will provide for a formal foreign service.
We promised in our Charter for Governance that we would bring into force foreign service orders to develop for the first time a formal foreign service, so that the career path and tracking of foreign service officers will be different from those of the general public service. It's taken some back and forth, but the government's advice now is to proceed by way of a new act, which will substitute for the existing act, which will cause the existing act, at least as far as provisions, to continue, but also gives us the authority to establish this foreign service as a special set of regulations in the public service regulations.
From the court, 31-year-old Jamal Gator will have to wait a bit longer to learn his fate after being convicted on ammunition and firearm charges today. Gator was found guilty of having 7 guns and over 500 rounds of ammunition. According to the court evidence, the items were found in appliance boxes in Gator's apartment. The incident dates back to 2010. The court was told that Gator was being watched by police, and when he realized, he fled into bushes. But before doing that, he kicked off his pants and shoes. We understand that an ATM card was found in the pants pocket with Gator's name on it, linking him to the crime scene. The chief magistrate was prepared to sentence Gator today. However, his attorney requested a probation report. The matter was then adjourned to next month, but until then, he has been remanded to prison. Convicted murderers Stephen Dye Stubbs, Andrew Davis, and Clinton Evans were back in court today, hoping to have their convictions and sentences overturned. The 3 were sentenced to life last year for the shooting death of a police officer more than 15 years ago. Prosecutors sought the death penalty, but they argued unsuccessfully, with the judge ruling that they had not followed proper procedure. During today's Court of Appeal proceedings, the matter was adjourned because the transcripts were not ready.
This portion of the news was brought to you by McDonald's. McDonald's, I'm loving it.